Let us start with Python basics. We already discussed Python installation in the last session. We started with installing Python on your local system. What is Python? Who is the person who developed Python? In the beginning, Guido van Rossum. We already discussed that Python 2 was released in 2000, Python 3 was released in 2008, and Python 3 is not fully compatible backwards. In fact, nowadays nobody is using Python 2. You also need to ignore this because Python 2 has been already discontinued. Python 2 version in January 2020, there was one announcement that there will be no further development in Python 2. And we already told you how to install Python. You have to install Anaconda if you want to work in the local system. When you are working locally, you can work on Jupyter Notebook. But in this course, we will be working on Google Colab. We'll be working on Python Notebook only, but in Google Colab. So how do you open a Colab file? You can go to your Google Drive, open a folder. You can go to our Python basic session and you say new Google Collaboratory. Open a new Google Collaboratory file, Google Colab file, and you can name this file. We can give it a name. Let's name it as basics of Python. We can give it a name as basics of Python, or session 2 in our case, which is like basics of Python. Session was one on installation. Now we will discuss basics of Python in this session. Okay. If you want to know which version of Python you're working on, so you can import a package, let's say from platform, import Python version. If you say this, and then if you say print Python underscore version, if you do like this, if you use this piece of code, then you will get to know what is the Python version. When you are working on Google Collaboratory, what happens is you will have your initialization that is happening in the beginning. Afterwards, the actual command will be executed because your cloud instance will be created, RAM and disk space will be allowed. So it is 3.7 point something is what we are using. That's the Python version that we are using. You don't need to memorize these commands anyway. You like the important commands you can memorize just to quickly check the version, we can use it. Remember, Python is a case sensitive language. You need to be careful. Instead of writing this one, if I write it this way, you will definitely get an error because this one is not available. So it's like that. So you need to be careful with the case sensitivity. Let us talk about the assignment operator. Okay. How do you assign? Let us suppose if you say income is equal to 12,000, then there will be a new variable that will be created called income, and 12,000 will be stored inside that. So if you try to print income, then 12,000 will be printed. If you execute only the first command, it will execute, but nothing will be printed because we are not really printing anything. We are just assigning a number to income. You can give such names. You can say x equal to 20 and then try to print x, then x will be printed. Okay. So it's okay if you are assigning some numbers to a variable, or if you are assigning even non-numerical values. Let's say if you say my name is Jack, okay, then there will be something called name that will be created. If you try to print name, Jack will be printed. Okay. But while assigning, you need to be careful. You can write x equal to 20, that works. But can I write 1x equal to 20? Can I have a variable name 1x instead of x? You cannot have that. It is not possible. It will give you a syntax error. You can store something in x1 equal to 20, that will work. That means if you try to print x1, that works. Print x1, that will work. But 1x doesn't work. You cannot start a variable name with the non-numeric value. Can I have a dot in the variable name? Let's say x dot 1. Is that allowed? If I say x dot 1 equal to 20, is that going to work? What do you think? Is it going to work? No, it also throws an error, syntax error. But can I have an underscore? Yes, underscore works. So if you want to really give any special character, try to keep only underscore. The other special characters, they don't work. Dot definitely doesn't work. In some other programming languages, if you are coming from some other programming language background like R or somewhere, dot works. But here, dot also doesn't work. Okay. Let us see what are some of the important data structures in Python. What are some of the important data structures in Python? There are three different type of data structures in Python. Those are primitive data structures, and within primitive you have integers, you have float, you have string, you have boolean. We're going to see what are these. And then non-primitive, a little complex ones, are within them you have built-in ones: list, tuple, dictionary, set. And then user defined, you can define these non-primitive ones like the little complex ones: stack, queue, linked list, tree, and all that. Okay, you can work with this. So usually what happens is these integer, float, string, boolean, we almost always work on them regularly. List, tuple, dictionary, set, depending on the situation, we may have to create and use them. These also we work very regularly, especially a list, a dictionary, a tuple, definitely we work with them. And these are little advanced depending on the need. When you are doing advanced programming, you may need them, but not in every situation. So let us understand these one by one. First, let us start with what are integers. Integers, all of us know it, isn't it? Age equal to 20. Now that 20 is an integer, which means age is an integer. Okay. What is a float? Let's say if I say my income, my income is 1250.567. That's a float value. If you want to know the type, let's say if I want to say what type is age, like type is a function that will tell what is the variable type. So if I say what type is age variable, that is of the type integer. Similarly, if I use the same piece of code and if I want to know what type is income variable, now that is given as, what type is that? That is float. Those are floats and integers. The next type of data is string. Now strings are very important in Python. Pay extra attention to this. Okay. So let us add a text. Well, let's say strings. Okay. Here these are the data types. Here we started with data types. Strings. What is a string? Anything that is non-numeric. Let's say name equal to, let's say if I write Sheldon. That's a string. Sheldon is a name. Now, if you want to print that, you simply write print the name that I have created, Sheldon. So this is known as string. Python works very effectively with strings. There are a number of methods, there are a number of built-in functions that we can directly work with when we are working with strings. For example, if you want to access each element one by one, Python automatically indexes this string. What do you mean by indexing? It will give number 0, number 1, number 2, and so on automatically. It will create indexes internally so that Python can work much faster when it is working with strings. For example, if I write from the name, if I want to access the only first letter, in Python, the indexing starts with 0. If I want to access only the first letter, I simply write this way. Then what will be printed? S will be printed. If I want to access the second letter, I'll write the same command and say 1. H will be printed. Now if I write print name, let's say if I write 0 to 3, what is your expectation? What is your expectation? You will get 0, 1, 2, 3. SHEL. But there is a small twist here. SHEL will not be printed, only SHE will be printed because it is including 0, excluding 3, including the first number, excluding the third index. This will be excluded. 3 means automatically 3 minus 1 until 2 it will be printed. 0, 1, 2. Make a side note here. It will be excluding 3 automatically. For example, if I write 0 to 5, what is the expected value out of 0 to 5? 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth index is O, but that will not be printed. So automatically SHEOSHELD 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Only 0 to 4 are printed. Fifth one will be ignored. Okay. What happens if I write 3 to 6? Can you guess it before you execute it? Pause here. Guess what is the output? 0, 1, 2, 3. That means third index is this one, L, 4, 5. So what will be printed? What will be printed? LDO. The index ID 6 will not be printed. What's the output if I put 3 to 4? 3 to 4, it's almost like 3 to 3 only. Only one number will be printed because it is not really considering the last one. Okay. What do you mean by slicing? This is known as string slicing. If I write a larger message, okay, if I write a message that data science, let's say if I store a message, data science course, CAEN, course, data science course. If I write this message, if you print this message, what happens? That message will be printed. If I want to slice it, okay. If I want to slice it, what do you mean by slicing? Writing it this way. This is known as string slicing. So what do you mean by slicing? Let's say if I want to see only first 4 characters. So if I simply type message 0 to 4, what will be that? That will be data. 0 to 8, that will be data and space and then SCI. If I want to know the length of this whole string, in the length, even the space is counted. That is also, space is also a string. So if I want to know the length, I simply write len message, whatever is the string name. Here is my string name, length of the message. How much is that? 19 characters are there. You can count them. 4 plus space 5, 5 plus 7, which is 12. Is it 7? Yeah, 7, 12, 13 plus 6. 13 plus 6, message length is 19. If you want to concatenate two strings, let us suppose my first name is a string. First name is Sheldon. Sheldon is the first name. Okay. If I want to concatenate that with a different string, let's say last name. Last name is something called Cooper. Sheldon Cooper. That is the first name. This is the last name. If you want to concatenate both of them and store in full name, what will be the code? You simply write. You don't need really functions for this. You simply write first name, add a plus sign, and then take the last name. That is it. String concatenation is done. You can print the full name. Print this one. Full name is printed. But I don't want to print it this way. I want to have full name with space. If that is the case, then plus that string, give a string that is a space. Now full name is Sheldon space Cooper. Sheldon Cooper is a full name. If I want to print that 10 times, there is a shortcut for it. You may not need it every time, but if you do it this way, print full name. If I want to print it 10 times, you can simply say into 10. This mathematical operation, Python will understand. If you are saying string into 10, it'll think that I have to print this string value 10 times. Sheldon Cooper, Sheldon Cooper, Sheldon Cooper. It'll start printing it 10 times. If you want to print it 10 times. So there is a small lab experiment after this. You have to do this. So what I want you to do is go here and do the lab experiment related to strings. Create a string, hello world, do this. Understand each and every question. You must be able to do it. It's very simple. You can do it. Understand each and every question and try to write the answer to this question. Okay? Don't miss this lab. While I'm discussing everything here, you have to pause this video and make sure that you're also executing it along with me. That's about strings. Let's go to the next concept, booleans or boolean, simple. So basically what is boolean? True, false. Booleans are used to store and they are used to use or return the values true and false. Okay. Now true inside a string, now that is a string. But if you just take this one, now that is a boolean. This is a boolean. This is a system variable. The system will understand this as a boolean. False is also a boolean. For example, if I say A is equal to 6 greater than 5, is really 6 greater than 5? Yes, it is. True will be the answer. The answer that you get, that is a boolean. Now, if you store that in something like A, that will be a boolean. A is a boolean. If you print A, there must be a format for that A, right? What's that format? That is boolean. Or if you write the opposite of it, what if 6 is or 5 is greater than 6? 5 is greater than 6. What will be stored inside A now? Can you make a guess? What will be stored? It will be false. You will get as false. So what type is A? If you want to know the type of this variable, what type is A? It is a Boolean type. Class is Boolean class. So basically the name class is coming from OOP concept, object oriented programming concept. In simple words, you can say this is of the type which is Boolean. So for example, if I write this small piece of code, my A is equal to or 5 greater than 6, which is like A is false. So A, if A is true or false, print 10. Then else print 15. What code I'm writing here? What am I writing here? Think about it. A is equal to false here. That means if A means if A is true, then print 10. Else, if A is false, print 15. Because A is false here, which one will be printed? 15 will be printed. If A means if A is true. If somebody writes simply if A, that means if A is true. If A is true, then print 10. So, but A is false. For example, if I write the same code and this time if I say A is 5 less than 6, 5 less than 6. If A, what do you mean by if A? If A means if A is true, print 10. If A is false, print 15. 10 will be printed because A is true. Got it? Those are some of the basic primitive, that means very, very basic data types. The next one is quite important. The next type of data is a list. You may be working with lists in future very, very frequently in Python. A list is a collection of element. A list looks similar to an array. If you already know what is an array, a list looks similar to an array, but that is not an array. List is not an array. Later on, I'll introduce arrays to you. At that time, I'll tell you what is the difference between list and array. Simply right now, a list is a collection of element. List can contain any number of element. It need not be of same type. In a list, you can have numeric and non-numeric values. Let me give you an example of list. So here are my customers. The customers is a list. Usually list is denoted by the square brackets. Automatically a list will be created. So who are my customers? These are Sheldon and then Leonard. This is my second customer, Leonard. And who is my third customer? Penny, their neighbor. The customers are Sheldon, Leonard, and Penny. Now that is a list. So if you want to print that list, you simply say print that list, sorry, print that list. Sheldon, Leonard, and Penny are there. Do you think the list has to be always strings like this, or can it be numeric list? Yes, numeric list is also possible. It's possible. 30, 31, 27. These are the age values. This is another list. Okay. If you want to print that list, that is also possible. Here is the list printed 30, 31, 27. How do you access the elements of a list? That means if I want to print Sheldon from customers, how do you access? In Python, how do you access it? Using the index. You simply say customer and then in that you write the element name. If I want to access the first element, I have to start with 0. What is the output that you will get? Sheldon. If I put 1 there, what you will get? If I put 1 there, how much will you get? 1 will give you Leonard. If I put 2 there, what will you get? That will give you Penny. Same thing goes with age as well. If you put age and then put 2, so at the third position, whatever is there, that you will get. Can you combine two lists? Let us suppose right now, customers is one list. Right now, this is one list. What if I have another list, which is like customers underscore one? There are two more customers that are added to that list, or there's a new list. Amy is one of the customer, and then Raj is another customer. If I want to add customers as well as customer one, it is simple. So define the list final cust is equal to cust all these customers plus cust plus customers one. What this will do is this will append these two lists. So if you try to print them, then that list will have total 5 customers in it. So what will be the length of that list? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You can also use a function called length if you want to know the number of elements in a list. If you want to access the number of elements in a list, you can use length function, len. 5 elements are there. If you want to append a particular item to the list, if you don't want to append two lists, if you don't want to define a list, then append. Let's say this is the final customers. To final customers, I want to append another value in the list. You simply say dot append a new customer, whatever is the name of the new customer. Forward is another customer that I want to append. So right now the final customers list, if you want to see, that will look like this. This is called a list. Appended 6 elements are there now. What if you want to delete a value? If you want to remove a value element from the list, you simply say final customers dot remove. Okay, if you say remove and then whatever you want to remove, if you want to remove an element, let's say penny is something that I want to remove. So either you can give single quotes or double quotes for a string. So I'm giving the double quotes here. Final customers dot remove penny has been removed. You will not get any output until you print it. So I have printed it, penny has been removed. Okay. For example, if I define this list, age is equal to my 30, 31, 27, 30, 48. These are the elements inside that list. If I say age dot remove, if I say age dot remove 30, what is the expected value? First of all, let us define age. Now, if I say age dot remove 30, what's happening? Let us try to print, because 30 is appearing twice here. Look at this. 30 is appearing twice here. If I remove age 30, is it going to remove both the places or is it going to remove the first occurrence? That's my question. Can you make a guess if the same element is appearing twice? If I say list value dot remove 30, is it going to remove from both the places or is it going to remove from only the first occurrence? Let us see that. So if I do this, print the new age, it has removed 30 first occurrence, but the second occurrence it kept. Once again, what I'm saying is if you say remove, only the first occurrence will be removed. The second occurrence will be kept as it is. Again, you have to do remove. Okay. So if you want to remove a particular element from the list, you can use dot remove, but it removes the first instance where it is appearing. What if I want to remove based on the index? For example, I have my data set on sales. Okay. My sales is, let's say $300, $350, $200, $250, again $300. That is my sales. But I don't want to give the name here. Let's say either you can remove 300, this one, or 350 or 200, but I want to remove based on the index. This is index 0, index 1, index 2, index 3, index 4. Based on the index, if you want to remove, not based on the value, because previously we have removed based on the value. If you want to remove based on the index, then what can you do is you can use a function called pop. Okay. You write the data frame, you write the list name dot pop and mention the index. I want to pop out index 1. That means 350 need to be popped out. If I do that, let me define sales first and then popped out. 350 has been popped out. Okay. So what will happen? What is the output? Print the output sales. Gone. 350 is gone. Let's say once again, if I say sales pop right now, this is sales 300, 200, 350. If I say sales pop 0, 1, 2, if I say pop 2, what will be removed? 250 will be removed. Now, if I try to print sales again, what's expected? 300, 200, and 300. That is what is expected. When you say pop, it will pop up. The pop out means delete that element where that index is indicating it to. Okay. Now, is there a way to sort the list elements? Let us suppose I'm again defining sales, or let's say I'm defining a new list. Loans is equal to, let's say number of loans are 3, number of loans are 0, number of loans are 2, number of loans are 6. Somebody got 20 loans. That is the list that I have. Is it a way to sort it? Yes, simple. Loans dot sort. By using sort, you can sort a list. Now, if you try to print loans, then it will be sorted. 0, 2, 3, 6, 20. If you want to sort in the descending order, now this is ascending order. If you want to sort in the descending order, do you want to give it a try? Can you check for the command? Can you do a little bit of search on the internet and find out how do you sort it in the descending order? Give it a shot. Okay. How do you sort in the descending order? You simply say sort, then you say reverse is equal to true. By doing so, you are sorting it in the reverse order. If you try to print it now, you will get 26320. These are the ones that you will get. So list indexing we have seen. Let us suppose if you take this data of the list So right now sales is the list. If I say sales 0, you know what is the output? What is the output of sales 0? The output of sales 0 will be 300. Yes or no? Tell me. 300. The output of sales 1 will be 350. Sales index 2 will be 200. 3 will be 250. Fourth one will be, fourth index is 300. What happens if I give a negative index? Does it work? Does it throw an error? What is a negative index? What does a negative index mean? Is it going to throw an error? No, it's not going to throw an error. Negative indexing also works. Negative indexing also works in list. You know how it works? Negative indexing starts from the last, -1, -2. It starts from -1, by the way. -1, -2, -3, -4, -5. If you put -1, the last element will be printed. If you put -2 in this output, if you put -2, the last but one, which is 250, will be printed. -3, now that you understand everything, isn't it? -3, what do you get as output? 200. -4, you'll get 350. -5, you'll get 300. Okay. Negative indexing also works in lists, and some people use negative indexing as well. And slicing also works. What do you mean by slicing? Giving an index in such a way that we are taking not just one value, we are not taking only one value, we are taking 2 or 3 values. Index from 2 to 5, index from 2 to 6, like that. For example, if I take this list, age list, let us say if we are slightly making it slightly larger. So right now in this list, there are 5 elements. Let me add one more element. Let's say the last age value is this one. So if I try to do the slicing, what do you mean by slicing? So you say age from 2 to 5, 0, 1, 2, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Fifth one will not be printed, isn't it? 2 to 5 means 0, 1, 2, 27, 30, 48 will be the output, isn't it? If I put 2 to 10, what happens? Is there any index 10? No. What will be the output? Will you get an error? No, you will not get an error. Whatever is the maximum index until that place, it will be printed to the maximum possible. Even if you put 10,000 or 100 also, you will get the same result because our list is ending there. So if you don't know the last element, if you want to print everything starting from 2, let's say 0, 1, 2. So from here on until the last place, if you want to print it, you simply put 2, comma, nothing. If you put, say, starting from 2, ending is infinity or nothing, it means it will print everything from there. If you want to do the opposite of it, I want to print all this until here. Let's say 0, 1, 2, 3. Until the index ID 3, I want to print, or until the index ID 4, I want to print everything. Then what is the function for it? Everything colon 4. Fourth one will be anyway ignored, because if you want to print until 0, 1, 2, 3, if you put 4, this will be ignored. First 4 will be printed anyway. Everything till 4. 0, 1, 2, 3, third index. What if you put the negative index? Negative will become little interesting, isn't it? You come here when you try to print this. This is -1, -2, -3. So if I put negative index, print negative index of -1 to -3, that means -1, -2, -3. So if I give like this, what will be the output? Let us see. Which one? Age, right? We have to say from age, print this negative indexes. Nothing is printed because we have to write it the opposite way, because -1 is greater than -3. Your starting point is -3, ending point is -1. Isn't that true? Starting point is -3, 30. 30 and then 48, and minus 1 is ignored because automatically the last one will be ignored. If you want to print these four, can you make a guess what will be the output? Why minus 1 is ignored? Because it is including minus 3, excluding this one, including this, excluding this one. Okay. So if you want to print 27, 30, 48, 25 from the back, let's say using negative index, minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4, I'll put minus 4 to everything, minus 4 to everything, 27, 30, 48, 25, like that. Or if you want to print everything until here, everything to minus 4. Now you can play around with this. These are not really that difficult to understand, isn't it? Everything to 4 or everything to minus 4. This is minus 1, minus 2, minus 3, minus 4. Everything to minus 4. That means this one, these two will be printed. Okay. That is about list and accessing the list. There is a small exercise right after this. What I want you to do is look at the list once again and look at the list exercise. Make sure that you are doing this lab exercise related to lists. When you're watching this video, you may want to watch this video at a little faster pace, but while you're watching with this video, make sure that you're practicing everything along with me for sure without any missing code in between. Okay. So the next data type is tuples or tuples. What are they? Tuples. 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 What do you mean by tuples? Let us see. They look like they're also a collection of elements. They look like lists, but to form a list, you use these square brackets. But to form a tuple, you use those round bracket, round parentheses. So tuples look like lists, but they are very, very different. Fundamentally, tuples are very different from lists. A list is mutable. Mutable means you can modify a list. Since it is mutable, Python need to allocate more memory. That is known as over allocating the memory. Whereas a tuple is immutable. That means once you create a tuple, either you can destroy it, either you can delete it, but you cannot mutate it. You cannot change it. What's the advantage of it? The advantage is Python can allocate fixed memory. So it doesn't over allocate the memory. And the memory allocation, when it is efficient, everything else will be very, very fast. For example, how do you define a tuple, sorry, cust, okay, id tuple underscore t, cust id tuple, okay. Previously, I have created cust id as a list. Now let's create a tuple. So in this, we have cust id C00194. That is one of the cust id. Similarly, we have two more cust IDs, okay. 194, 195, 196, okay. Now that is a tuple, okay. This is a tuple. It just looks like a list. Even when you print it, it just operates and looks like a list. But there are some fundamental differences that we need to understand. This is a tuple. Now, how does a list look like? Let me define a list. Cust ID list. Only difference would be put the square bracket instead of round bracket. Then Python will understand you are defining a list instead of tuple. So you are define the list here. This is a list. This is a tuple. But a list is mutable. A tuple is not mutable. Since a tuple is not mutable, the size of it will be small. A list size will be more. How do you get to know the size of it? So you can use a function called from system packages import get size of. That is one of the packages. Okay. Then if you try to get size of tuple, cust id tuple, This is our tuple. How much is this? Okay, let's print that. Print from says, oh yeah, I have done a spelling mistake here. From says the size of the tuple is 80, maybe 80 bytes or 80 bits. I don't know. 80, some number. And then what is the size of a list? 96, a little more. But if you have a very large data set, here we are talking about only 3 records. If you have a very, very large data set with so many records in it, this difference does really matter. The time that it takes, the time that it consumes to work with tuple versus a list is very, very different. For example, if you want to try to compare the time, okay, we can write a small code for it. So from timeit function, import, you don't need to really write this code, but just the comparison, okay, import timeit, okay. What I'm trying to do is I'm trying to create a list and copy it 1 billion times. How much time does it take? If I try to create a list, copy it 1 billion times, what time it takes, okay? If you compare both of them, so the difference would be somewhat like, if you compare both of them and try to look at the difference, okay? How much would that be? Let us see. If you try to compare both of them and try to compare the difference, it will be like a list will take nearly 2 seconds, and then a tuple will take less than 1 second, 1 billion times copying the same thing. What's the advantage of it? Almost half of the time, like it's 2 seconds versus 1 second, of almost half of the time is saved by using tuples. So that's the use of tuples. Tuples are one of the 4 built-in data types within Python lists, and you have tuples, you have the dictionaries which are coming up later on, and sets. Okay, this is also a collection, but a tuple is immutable. What do you mean by immutability? Immutability means you cannot change the values once a tuple is created. You cannot change the values within a tuple. For example, here a tuple is created. What is a tuple? Cust ID is a tuple that is created. A list is also created. Now in cust ID, we have already seen in a list, if you want to update an element, it was easy. Let's say, let us talk about the list first. Okay. This is the list that you have created. If you try to print it, that's the list that we have created. In this list, I want to update this as 198. How do I do that? I go to that element. I will access that second element which is having index 1, and I just say simply I don't want to have as 195 the customer ID. By mistake I gave it, it has to be 198. This works and my list is updated. I have done a mutation. Mutation means I have updated it. Can I do the same operation with the tuple? Let's say here also I want to make it as 198. So can I write the same code? Let us see. So if I do this, access the second element and then update it. Now remember, this is a tuple. In a tuple, if I'm updating it, the second element, what will be the output? Tuple object doesn't support item assignment. Basically, it doesn't support any mutation. We need to be careful with tuples. They don't support mutation. So you can use tuples, you can use the lists. Usually a lot of people use lists. You can use tuples also. The tuples are little lightweight compared to list. They are not mutable. There are some cases where you don't want the user to mutate anything. Let us suppose you are taking the information from a website. When a user enters the value, let's say you're asking the user to enter his age. Now, once you take that data from the user, you don't want anyone else to edit it. You don't want anyone else to modify that value. You directly want to bring that value, put it in your database. You don't want any mutation. Once the data is entered, it has to be fixed, or otherwise it has to be totally erased. So there are some cases where you want to totally do not want to make any modifications once something is created. In that case, you can use tuple. Now there is something called tuple packing. What do you mean by tuple packing? If you say, let's say region, my region is equal to east. My region is east, comma, west, comma, north, comma, south. If I just simply say east, comma, west, comma, north, comma, south, it automatically means that this is something called, like, this is kind of packing. Like, even without these brackets, automatically it is understood this region will be stored as a tuple. If you want to see the type of this region variable, if you want to see what type it is, automatically it will be stored as a tuple. It will be stored as a tuple. The class is tuple. So in the above operation, we have simply written EW, east, west, north, south. They are packed together. Even reverse of packing is also possible. Let's say if you want to unpack it, if you want to write R1, okay, R1, comma, region 2, R2, region 3, R3, region 4, R4 is equal to R4 is equal to, if you write my tuple region, can you make a guess what is going to happen? What's going to happen? Can I print R1? If I try to print R1, what will be the result? If I try to print R1, the result will be east. If I try to print R2, the result will be west. So the advantage in Python is, especially when you are printing, you can use this packing R1, comma R2. That means automatically that will be printed. East and west will be printed R1, comma R2, comma R3. Especially while you are using some packages later on, this packing is used. This is known as tuple packing. Okay. It need not be like in a tuple, you need to have only numeric or non-numeric values. You can have mixed data types as well. Okay. Tuple utilizes less memory compared to that of list. So tuple versus list, if you are thinking which one to use, what data scientists use? Do they use tuples? Do they use lists? They use both. You have to use both in your future assignments. Sometimes we need mutability, modifications to the variable. Then you can use lists. Sometimes we need to use less memory. We need speed. We need immutability. In that case, go for tuples. So depending on the situation, you can use tuple or a list. Let me give you example one. If you are writing a function, you need to take the input parameter from the user. I told you, right? On a website, you created a form. A user is giving you a parameter, or later on, you're writing a function. A function takes a parameter, okay? And you need to perform so many calculations on that parameter. If you're performing so many calculations, all your calculations are based on that parameter, and the user, once it gives it, it is fixed. And the function, whatever calculations that you're writing, they will be the result from that. Okay, they will be results based on the input parameter given by the user. Okay, how would you like to store that input parameter? Is it inside a tuple or is it inside a list? You're writing a function or you're creating a form on a website, and the user has to enter it. Nobody could change it. If that is the case, here you can use a tuple. You want to store all the columns inside a variable. Let's say you have a data set. In that data set, you have column names, column 1, column 2, column 3, column 4. Okay. And finally, you want to return the first two columns. Or maybe later you may want to rename these columns. Or maybe you can rearrange them. What do you want to store all these column names in? Is it a list or is it a tuple that you want to store in? If you want to rename the columns later on, obviously you need mutability. Obviously you will be going for the list for sure there. Wherever you want mutability, depending on the situation, you can go for list. If you don't want any mutability, if you don't want any changes, then you can go for a tuple. So do the next exercise. We are done with the tuple. The next exercise is on tuples. Understand each and every question. Question 1, question 2, question 3, question 4. It's a very simple exercise. You will be able to understand that and you will be able to do it. So let's attempt the next exercise. So the next data type is dictionary. Let us see what is a dictionary. Let us understand the nitty-gritties behind what is a dictionary. Okay. So dictionary is again little different, which is used in different places. Dictionary is a Python data type. Okay. So until now, Python has given its own indexing. If you create a tuple or if you create a list, Python has given its own indexing. So in this list, if you see here, index 1, index 2, index 3 or 0, 1, 2. These are the indices given by Python. That means if I write 0, then automatically this one will be given. What if I want to have my own indexing? So let us suppose I have my city name, Los Angeles, LA, and then Palo Alto, PA, and then Florida, FL. If I have these cities or states, okay, if I have these, now what I want to do is, let's say if this is a list, directly if I want to access the first element, I would say first element in the sense like 0, 1, the index is this one. But what if I want to give my own index? I want to say this is 0, let's say this is, or let's say this is 1, this is 2, this is 3. I want to give 1, 2, 3 instead of 0, 1, 2. If that is the case, instead of creating a list, instead of giving Python the power to create its own index, what if we want to give our own index and value? If you want to give index and value, index is known as key. If you want to give key and value by yourself, then you have to derive a dictionary. Let me derive a dictionary. I'm creating a city dictionary. To derive a dictionary, you have to give these curly braces, okay, curly parentheses. Here is my key, my first key, and whatever is the value, key value, and then that's the pair, and then second pair of key values, key value, PA, and then third pair, comma, 3 is the key, and what's the value, FL. That's a value, key value, key value, key value. Now that's the dictionary. That means if you want to access the first element, if you simply write 0, that doesn't work because there is no such key as 0. But if you want to access the first element, you put 1. That works, isn't it? If I put 2, PA will be printed. If you give key, I'll give you value. If you give key, I'll give you value in return. Not only this, what if I define the same? I don't want to give 1, 2, 3 as keys. What if I want to give 4, 8, and 12 as the keys? Is it possible? Is it to be in order only always? No, not required. Even if you give this way, it works. But this time, when you are writing, when you are accessing the third one, it will not give you the output. There is no such key as 3. If you are really intending to print FL, Florida, then what is the output that you have to give, or what is the code that you have to give? You have to give 12 here because 12 is the key. Florida is the value. FL is the value for the key 12. Okay. So you don't need to really follow the same index or the same order. You can give any index that you want. And is this index, does it need to be always numeric? Can it be non-numeric as well? Let's say I want to say this is city 001. Non-numeric means string values in the codes we have to give. This is city 001, that's the key. Okay. The second one is city 002, that's the key. The third one is city 003, that's the key. Okay. That's the third one. City 003, 001, 002, 003. These are the three keys. Again, how do you access PA now? You write the city name and then give the key here. What's the key here? 002. If I give it this way, it won't work. Why it won't work? Because I haven't given string. I have to give a string there. How do you give a string? Give the actual key. Here is the actual key. Now PA will be printed. Okay. So you can have numeric and non-numeric values, both of them. Let's say if I want to have a mix of them, if I want to have a mix, let's say this is 2 and is this going to work? Yes, it does work. So if I put same this one, is it going to work? This will not work because there is no key as C002. What's the key then? The key is 2. What is the key for LA? The key is C001 is the key. So key value, key value, key value pairs is called as a dictionary. This is called a dictionary. It's a combination, collection of key value pairs. Okay. If you want to update the value, let's say instead of PA, if I want to give some other value here, is it possible? Yes, it is possible. Instead of FL, if I want to give some other value, that is also possible. Let's say instead of PA, if I want to give something else, okay. Let's say instead of FL, if I want to give NY. Now, but I don't want to redefine this. I want to access it by key and update it. So how do I do it? I'll go to city and first access the third element using this key. Access the third element using this key. And what do you want to update it with? I want to update it with, let's say, NY. NY is what I want to write. Now the city will be updated because I have updated the value for that particular key. Now if you try to print it, C001 is LA, 2 is PA, and then C003 is NY. So you can update the values by accessing them by a key. But you cannot update the keys. Keys cannot be updated because to access a value, you can give a key. But to access a key, how do you access it? So keys cannot be updated. You can only update the values. Okay, values or what are the values? LA, PA, FL, those are the values here. Updating the keys is not possible. If you want to fetch all the keys, if you want to print all the keys in one go, you write city dot keys, all the keys. Then all the keys will be printed. C001, 2, 3, that will be printed. If you want to print all the values in one shot, city dot values within one shot. If you want to print all the values, this is the command for it. LA, PA, NY. That's how you print all the values. Okay. Let us suppose if I'm creating a new dictionary. Okay. The dictionary is employee. Employee is the dictionary. And in this dictionary, you have the name of the employee. That is the first key. Okay. And then employee ID. That's the second key. And then let me put an underscore employee ID. And then age of the employee. That's the third key. Followed by salary of the employee. That's the fourth key. Values I'm going to print later. Then the employee company. That's the, this is the employee database that I have. That's the last key. Now let me put values. The name is Tom. That's the value. I can give two quotes as well or single quotes, doesn't matter. And then employee ID. Tom's employee ID is, key values are separated by this colon. Pay extra attention. This colon you have to give. Employee ID is 198876. That's the employee ID for Mr. Tom. And Tom's age is 29. Tom's salary is $25,000. Tom's company is Tom works for Facebook. Now it's known as Meta, isn't it? So this is the employee dictionary that I have. Is it created well? Yes, it is created well. So if I want to print only the name, I'll just give employee and then the key name. If I want to print only the employee age, I'll give that key, which is age. If I want employee ID, that can also be printed. But what if I want to iterate in this and one by one, how many ever keys are there without me mentioning those keys? I want to print all of them. How do you do the iteration? Okay, what you need to do is for X in employees, that means for every element in employee, okay, for every element in employee, print X. Simple. For every element in employee, print that element, print X. That's it. If you just want to iterate over it, you simply print X. That means that whole dictionary will be printed. Here we are getting only keys. What if I want to print the keys as well as values? Then for every element in employee dot values, by default it is printing keys. For every element in employee values, print the values. For every element in keys, let's say if you want to be very specific, for every element in keys, print that element. Okay, even without keys also it will work. Okay, but what if I want to access every key as well as value? Now here is the output. For first print the key, how do you access the value? By giving the key you can access the value. So I will write employee and then mention the key there. The key is X. So first time X will be name and then employee name will be Tom. Second time X will be employee ID will be printed. So both of them will be printed if you give it this way for all keys. Key is this one, value is this one, key is this one, value is this one. If you want to print a hash or a hyphen in between them, you put this way, comma, this. All right. That is one way, or there is a function called items. So for every X in items, items means keys and values both together are known as dictionary items. And if you simply put this way, these are the items of the dictionary, or these are the elements in the dictionary. A dictionary is a key value pair. Sometimes you'll be working with dictionaries in future. Sometimes you'll be working with tuples in future. Sometimes you will be working with lists in future. Lists are the ones that I have observed that most frequently we will be working with. Some places tuples, at some places dictionaries. These are the most widely used ones. There are of course other data types as well. Based on the need, you can learn them later on. But now observe all these, whatever we discuss, then go to that exercise on the dictionary. Once you understood dictionaries, go to this exercise. And these are very simple small questions. Understand these questions. Try to write the answers to this. So this is the basic session on Python. If you understand these are not very difficult to understand. We just need to be comfortable with all these. Practice them once or twice. You will be very comfortable with all these. Okay. So that completes our first session on Python. We have got some very basic introduction to Python. Later on, a little bit more complex functions, a little bit more complex commands we are going to discuss in the upcoming sessions. Before getting into the next session, make sure that you complete all this code. Whatever I have shown here, you must have written all of that. Once you have that output, once you have that code file with you, then only we'll proceed further. Okay, I'll see you in the next video.